Rashid and Amina had been married for more than 40 years and their life had always been simple and quiet. They were not rich people, but they were honest and respected in their old neighborhood. When they were younger, Rashid worked hard with his hands and Amina managed the home with calm patience. They raised their son Salman with love and hope. For a long time they lived in a small house that carried many memories, like morning tea on the porch and evening prayers in the same corner of the room. But age brings change, and sometimes change arrives with pressure. When Rashid became weak and the old house needed repairs they could not afford, Salman asked them to move into his city home so he could take care of them. At first Rashid and Amina felt thankful. They believed this move would bring family warmth and safety. Salman welcomed them and carried their small bags inside. His wife Nida greeted them with a polite smile. She spoke softly and said they should feel at home. The couple tried to adjust quickly. Rashid woke early and offered to help with small chores. Amina cleaned her own space and tried not to ask for much. They did not want to feel like a burden. They kept their voices low and their steps slow and respectful. The city house was different from their village life. Everything moved fast outside, and inside the house there were strict routines. Nida liked things a certain way and she did not like changes. In the first week she served meals on time and asked if they needed anything. Rashid thanked her with sincerity and Amina prayed for her health every night. Salman came home tired and ate quickly, then slept. He was kind but always busy. The couple understood that work life was hard and they did not complain. After a few weeks, Amina started to notice small signs. Nida's smile became short and her eyes became sharp. She sighed loudly when Amina walked slowly through the hallway. She complained when Rashid used extra water in the bathroom. She counted the grocery items and talked about bills in a way that made the old couple feel guilty. When Salman was at home, Nida acted normal. When he was away, her voice changed and her words became heavy like stones. Rashid tried to ignore it. He told Amina that young people have stress and they should not take it personally. Amina nodded, but her heart felt uneasy. She missed her own home and the freedom to breathe without fear of disturbing someone. Still she kept quiet and tried harder. She folded her bedding neatly. She washed her own cup. She even started eating less so Nida would not feel annoyed. Rashid noticed that Amina's hands were shaking more than before and her eyes looked tired, but she still forced a gentle smile. One evening Salman returned late. He looked exhausted and sat on the sofa without speaking much. Nida served him food and started talking about expenses. She mentioned how prices were rising and how the house felt crowded. Salman did not argue. He just nodded and said he would handle it. Rashid sat quietly nearby and listened without interrupting. Amina kept her eyes lowered. Salman noticed their silence and asked if they were comfortable. Rashid said yes and told him not to worry. Salman looked relieved and went to bed. Nida stayed in the kitchen and slammed a dish a little harder than needed. That night the house became quiet. Rashid lay down but could not sleep. He heard Amina breathing softly beside him. He felt that she wanted to say something but was holding it inside. He held her hand and whispered that everything would be fine. Amina squeezed his hand and stayed silent. The room felt colder than usual, though the weather was not cold. Near midnight, Amina felt thirsty and decided to go to the kitchen for water. She walked slowly to avoid noise. The hallway light was off and the floor was cool under her feet. As she reached the kitchen area, she heard a low voice coming from the living room. It was Nida speaking on the phone. Amina did not want to listen. She tried to step back, but the next words made her freeze. Nida said Rashid and Amina's names clearly. Amina's heart beat faster. She stood still behind the wall and her hand held the edge of the doorframe. Nida spoke in a sharp whisper. She said she could not handle the old people anymore. She said they were taking space and money and peace. She said she had a plan and it would be done soon. She mentioned a place where old people could be sent and she talked about papers and signatures. She said Salman would agree if she kept pushing him and if she made it sound like the best option. She said once it happened the house would feel free again and no one would blame her because it would look like a normal decision. Amina felt dizzy. Her mouth became dry and she forgot about the water. The words hit her like a sudden storm. She did not even feel anger first. She felt shock and fear. She returned to the room slowly and sat on the edge of the bed. Rashid woke up when he sensed movement. He asked what happened. Amina tried to speak, but her throat felt tight. After a moment she told him everything she heard. Her voice was low, but each word carried weight. Rashid listened without interrupting. His face became still and serious. He closed his eyes for a few seconds, as if he was trying to hold back pain. Rashid was a proud man but not a stubborn one. He understood that staying where you are not wanted can break your spirit. He also knew that if Nida was planning something, it could happen quickly. He looked at Amina and saw fear in her eyes. He said they would not wait to be treated like unwanted luggage. He said they would leave with dignity. Amina asked where they would go. Rashid said they would find a way because the night road was better than a home where respect was dying. They began to pack quietly. They had very little. A few clothes. A small pouch with savings Rashid kept for emergencies. Amina wrapped their prayer beads and a small photo of Salman as a child. Rashid folded his old scarf carefully like it was armor. They moved slowly, but with purpose. They avoided making sound. The house was silent except for the distant hum of city traffic outside. Rashid opened the door softly and looked into the dark street. The air outside felt cold but also felt like freedom. Amina held the bag and looked back at the room one last time. She felt sadness because she loved her son and she never imagined leaving his house like this. But she also felt a small spark of strength because she was choosing respect over fear. They stepped out into the night and closed the door behind them without a sound. Their feet moved slowly down the street under dim lights. They did not know what would happen next. They only knew that their love for each other was still strong and their dignity was still alive. And in that midnight silence their journey started with hope hidden inside worry and courage hidden inside tears. Rashid and Amina walked slowly through the quiet streets while the city slept around them. The night air felt heavy and cool against their faces. Streetlights stood like silent guards and their shadows moved gently on the empty road. Amina held the small bag close to her chest while Rashid walked slightly ahead, guiding her steps. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Words felt too weak for what they were carrying inside their hearts. They reached a small bus stop near a closed market. The benches were cold and dusty. Rashid helped Amina sit down and wrapped his scarf around her shoulders. She looked tired, but she did not complain. She trusted Rashid and believed he would protect her no matter how hard the road became. Rashid sat beside her and looked at the dark road ahead. He thought about Salman and felt a deep ache in his chest. He did not blame his son fully. He knew Salman was caught between work pressure and a controlling home. Still, the pain of leaving like this stayed heavy. Amina finally broke the silence. She asked if they had made the right choice. Rashid answered gently that dignity is more important than comfort. He said staying where fear lives slowly destroys the soul. Amina nodded and wiped her eyes. She remembered the days when Salman was small and used to sleep between them during storms. She wondered how life had changed so much. Rashid reminded her that children grow into their own lives and sometimes forget the sacrifices made for them. As dawn slowly approached, a bus arrived with a low rumbling sound. It was an early route heading toward the outskirts of the city. Rashid paid the fare with shaking hands and helped Amina climb inside. The bus was mostly empty with only a few tired faces. They sat near the window and watched the city fade behind them. Amina rested her head against the glass and closed her eyes. Rashid stayed awake watching every turn like he was guarding their future. The bus dropped them near an old area where Rashid once worked many years ago. There was a small community center nearby that helped people in need. Rashid remembered it from his younger days when he volunteered there. He hoped it was still open. They walked slowly toward the building as the sky turned pale with morning light. Birds began to sing, and the city started to wake up. The center was a simple place with worn walls and a faded sign. A man named Karim opened the door. He was surprised to see Rashid and recognized him after a moment. Karim's face softened with concern when he saw Amina's tired eyes. Rashid explained briefly that they needed temporary help. He did not share details out of pride, but his voice carried honesty. Karim welcomed them inside without questions and offered them tea and a place to rest. Inside, the center felt warm and calm. Amina sat down and finally felt her body relax. Rashid thanked Karim and said they would not stay long. Karim smiled and said help has no timer. He said the center existed for moments like this. Amina felt tears again, but this time they were mixed with relief. She realized kindness still existed outside family walls. Later that morning, Salman woke up at home and noticed the quiet. He went to Rashid and Amina's room and found it empty. The bed was neatly arranged and their few belongings were gone. Panic filled his heart. He searched the house and called their names. Nida acted surprised and said maybe they went for a walk. Salman felt something was wrong. He remembered how quiet his parents had been the night before. Salman tried calling Rashid, but the phone was switched off. He sat down heavily and memories rushed back. He remembered his father's tired hands and his mother's gentle care. He realized he had failed to protect them. Nida spoke about how this was better for everyone and how old people needed special places. Salman looked at her and for the first time truly listened to her tone. He felt anger rising quietly. Back at the center, Rashid and Amina rested for a few hours. Later, Karim introduced them to an old friend named Yusuf who managed a small guest house nearby. Yusuf agreed to let them stay for a low cost until they decided their next step. The guest house was small but clean. Amina smiled softly when she saw sunlight entering through the window. It reminded her of their old home. That evening, Rashid and Amina sat together and talked about the future. They knew life would not be easy. They had limited savings and weak health. But they also felt lighter than before. No one watched them with cold eyes. No one planned their removal. Rashid said they could try to live simply again. Amina agreed and said as long as they were together she could face anything. As night fell, Salman arrived at the community center after asking around. Karim guided him to Rashid and Amina. When Salman saw them, his eyes filled with tears. He apologized again and again. He said he did not know things had gone so far. Rashid listened quietly. Amina held Salman's face and told him they loved him but they needed peace. Salman promised to change and asked them to come back. Rashid told Salman that trust needs time to heal. He said they would think about it, but for now they needed space. Salman nodded with shame and respect. He left knowing he had learned a painful lesson. That night, Rashid and Amina slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. Their future was uncertain, but their hearts felt steady. They had chosen courage over fear, and that choice gave them strength to face whatever came next. Rashid and Amina woke up early in the small guest house room as soft light entered through the window. The place was quiet and calm. Amina prepared simple tea using the kettle Yusuf had provided. Rashid sat on the chair and watched the steam rise from the cups. For the first time in many days they felt they could breathe without fear. The night had passed without worry, and their sleep was deep and healing. After breakfast, Rashid suggested a short walk. Amina agreed and wrapped her shawl around her shoulders. They stepped outside and walked slowly along the narrow street. The area was old but peaceful. Small shops were opening and people greeted each other with familiar smiles. Amina felt warmth in her chest seeing simple kindness again. She said this place reminded her of their village life. Rashid smiled and said sometimes life circles back to simple paths. They returned to the guest house where Yusuf was cleaning the front area. He asked if they were comfortable. Rashid thanked him and offered to help with small tasks in exchange for staying longer. Yusuf agreed kindly and said respect matters more than money. Rashid began helping by sweeping the entrance while Amina helped fold clean sheets inside. Their hands found purpose again and their hearts felt lighter. Later that day, Karim visited them and shared news from the community. He told them about a small program that helped elderly couples earn a little by teaching skills. Rashid listened carefully. He said he used to repair tools and Amina was good at stitching and cooking simple meals. Karim smiled and said those skills were valuable. He invited them to visit the center the next morning. That evening Salman called again. His voice sounded tired and full of regret. He said the house felt empty without them. He admitted he had ignored signs and allowed silence to harm his parents. Amina listened quietly. Rashid told Salman that mistakes happen but healing needs effort and honesty. Salman promised he would speak openly and change his ways. Rashid thanked him for understanding and ended the call gently. The next morning Rashid and Amina walked to the community center together. The place felt alive with people sharing stories and helping each other. Karim introduced them to others who had faced similar struggles. Amina felt comfort knowing they were not alone. Rashid shared his skills and fixed a broken chair. People appreciated his work and offered small payments. Amina helped in the kitchen and prepared simple food that reminded many of home. Days passed and a new routine formed. Rashid worked in the mornings and rested in the afternoons. Amina stitched clothes and shared recipes with younger women. They earned just enough to cover their needs. More than money, they gained respect. No one looked at them with annoyance. No one whispered plans behind walls. They felt seen and valued. One afternoon Salman arrived at the center again. This time he came alone. He looked calmer and more serious. He asked to speak with Rashid privately. They sat under a tree outside. Salman said he had spoken honestly at home and set clear boundaries. He said he wanted his parents to return, but only if they felt safe and respected. Rashid listened and said he appreciated the effort. He told Salman that love must be shown through actions, not words. Amina joined them later and Salman apologized to her with tears in his eyes. He held her hands and said he missed her prayers and guidance. Amina forgave him but reminded him that peace is fragile. Salman nodded and said he understood. He invited them to visit, but did not pressure them to decide quickly. That night Rashid and Amina talked deeply. They discussed returning and also staying where they felt strong. Amina said she no longer feared the future. Rashid agreed and said they had learned their worth again. They decided they would visit Salman during the day sometimes but keep their own place for now. It gave them balance and control. As weeks went by, their health improved. Amina smiled more and Rashid laughed softly at small jokes. They built friendships at the center. Their story became one of quiet strength. People admired how they chose dignity over comfort and rebuilt their life step by step. One evening as they watched the sunset from the guest house steps, Amina said she was glad they walked into the night that day. Rashid agreed and said sometimes the darkest paths lead to the clearest mornings. They held hands and felt grateful for courage and patience. Their journey was not over, but they were no longer afraid. They had learned that respect begins with self-respect. And together they would continue walking forward with steady hearts and hopeful eyes. Rashid and Amina continued their new life with quiet strength and steady hearts. Each morning they woke before sunrise and listened to the city slowly come alive. The guest house felt more like a home now. Amina cleaned their small room with care and Rashid checked the door and windows like he always did. These simple habits gave them comfort and routine. At the community center, Rashid became known as the man who could fix almost anything. People brought broken stools, loose shelves, and old tools. Rashid worked patiently and never rushed. His hands were slow but sure. Amina spent time in the kitchen and with her stitching. She taught younger women how to sew properly and how to save fabric. Her calm voice made people feel safe. Many came just to sit and talk with her. One afternoon Karim called Rashid aside and shared an idea. He said the center wanted to start a small corner shop for repairs and handmade items. He asked Rashid and Amina if they wanted to help lead it. Rashid felt surprised but honored. Amina smiled and said they would try their best. This opportunity made them feel useful again and gave their days new meaning. They began planning carefully. Rashid repaired old furniture donated by neighbors. Amina stitched simple bags and cloth covers. Yusuf helped by allowing them to use a small storage room. Slowly the project took shape. People began to notice and support them. The corner shop did not bring much money at first, but it brought pride and connection. Meanwhile, Salman continued visiting regularly. He came with respect and patience. He listened more than he spoke. He helped Rashid carry items and asked Amina for advice. He no longer avoided difficult conversations. Rashid noticed the change and felt cautious hope. Amina appreciated Salman's effort but remained careful. She wanted peace, not promises. One day Salman shared that Nida was struggling with change. He said she was learning but it was slow. Rashid replied that growth takes time. He reminded Salman that respect for elders should never depend on convenience. Salman nodded and said he understood deeply now. As months passed, Rashid and Amina grew stronger emotionally and physically. Their faces looked brighter and their steps steadier. They no longer felt lost. They felt chosen by life again. Amina said she felt younger because her heart was lighter. Rashid laughed and said courage can heal better than medicine. One evening the community center organized a small gathering. People shared food and stories. Karim spoke about resilience and kindness. He mentioned Rashid and Amina as examples of dignity. Amina felt shy but proud. Rashid lowered his head humbly. They realized their quiet choice had inspired others. After the gathering, Salman stayed behind. He told his parents he wanted to make things right fully. He said he was ready to rebuild trust slowly. He asked if they would consider staying with him part of the week in the future. Rashid looked at Amina. She thought carefully and then said they could try visits but would keep their independence. Salman agreed without argument. That night Rashid and Amina talked long into the evening. They spoke about forgiveness and boundaries. They agreed that love does not mean surrender. It means balance. They felt grateful they had learned this lesson together. The next morning they opened the corner shop officially. Neighbors stopped by and congratulated them. Rashid fixed a chair on the spot. Amina sold a stitched bag with a gentle smile. Their hands were busy and their hearts were full. As the sun set, Rashid and Amina sat quietly outside the guest house. They watched the sky change colors and felt content. Their journey had been painful but meaningful. They had turned fear into strength and loss into purpose. They knew challenges would come again. Life always brings new tests. But now they trusted themselves. They trusted each other. And that trust made all the difference. Their story continued not as one of escape, but as one of renewal. They had chosen dignity and found a new beginning built on respect, patience, and quiet courage. Rashid and Amina entered the final season of their journey with calm hearts and clear minds. The corner shop had become a steady part of their lives. Each morning Rashid unlocked the small wooden door and greeted neighbors with a warm nod. Amina arranged the stitched items neatly and brewed tea for anyone who stopped by. The work was simple but meaningful. It gave them purpose and a place where they felt respected. As days passed, more people visited the shop. Some came for repairs and some came just to talk. Rashid listened patiently to stories and fixed items with care. Amina offered gentle advice and comfort. Their presence created a quiet peace around them. People trusted them because they spoke honestly and acted kindly. One afternoon Karim shared news that filled them with hope. The community center had received support to help elderly people secure stable housing. Karim said Rashid and Amina could apply for a small ground floor apartment nearby. It was modest but clean and safe. Rashid and Amina looked at each other with surprise and gratitude. They agreed to apply and waited patiently. During this time Salman continued to visit regularly. He helped with the shop and sometimes brought food. He spoke respectfully and showed real change. Amina noticed his efforts and softened. Rashid watched carefully and appreciated the consistency. Trust grew slowly like a young plant needing time and care. Nida also sent messages through Salman. She expressed regret and said she was learning to be patient. Rashid did not react strongly. He believed change is proven through action, not words. Amina prayed quietly for peace in everyone's heart. A few weeks later, Karim arrived with a smile and good news. Their application was approved. The apartment was small but bright with 2 rooms and a tiny kitchen. It was close to the center and the shop. Rashid and Amina visited the place together. Sunlight entered through the windows and birds could be heard outside. Amina touched the wall gently and smiled. Rashid felt relief settle deep in his chest. They moved in slowly with help from friends. Their belongings were few but precious. Amina placed their prayer mat in a quiet corner. Rashid set a chair near the window. The apartment felt peaceful from the first day. It was not luxury but it was theirs. That evening Salman visited and saw the new place. He smiled and said he was proud of them. Rashid thanked him and said pride comes from responsibility. Amina served tea and spoke calmly about boundaries and respect. Salman listened carefully and agreed. He said he would always honor their space and wishes. Life found a gentle rhythm again. Rashid managed the shop in the mornings and rested in the afternoons. Amina continued stitching and sometimes taught children simple sewing. Their health improved and laughter returned to their days. They felt strong because they had chosen their own path. One day the community center organized another gathering. This time Rashid and Amina were invited to speak. Rashid shared their story simply. He spoke about dignity, patience, and the courage to leave when respect fades. Amina spoke about forgiveness and self-respect. Many listened with tears and understanding. Their words carried truth because they lived it. After the gathering, a young couple approached them and thanked them. They said the story helped them understand how to treat elders with care. Rashid and Amina felt humbled. They realized their journey had meaning beyond their own lives. As months passed, Rashid and Amina visited Salman's home during the day. The visits were calm and respectful. Nida behaved kindly and kept her distance when needed. The atmosphere was better because boundaries were clear. Amina felt comfortable and Rashid felt at ease. They returned to their apartment each evening feeling peaceful. One quiet night Rashid and Amina sat by the window and watched the moon rise. Amina said she was grateful for every step they took, even the painful ones. Rashid agreed and said hardship taught them their true worth. They held hands and felt content. They knew life would continue to test them. Age brings challenges and time moves forward. But they were no longer afraid. They had learned to stand for themselves with calm strength. They had learned that dignity is not given, it is chosen. Their story did not end with escape or sorrow. It ended with renewal and quiet victory. Rashid and Amina built a life based on respect, courage, and love. And together they walked forward knowing they would never allow fear to silence their worth again.